Hello, everybody. Larry here, and we got Xin Xin Fan, and today we're having a special live stream AMA for the IoTeX community. You know, a lot of stuff has been going on post mainnet at IoTeX. We've been delivering new tools, new wallets, new explorers, and we just launched a blog post just now around what the other post mainnet roadmap items are. But you know, before we get into that, I wanted to do some short introductions for anyone that doesn't know. This is Xin Xin, IoTex's head of cryptography. I'll let him introduce himself a little bit more.
Hello, IoTeX community. I'm Xin Xin Fan. I'm head of cryptography at IoTeX, mainly focusing on the research aspect and leading also some product development.
Mm-hmm. So Xin Xin's been with the project from the very beginning, and he's masterminded a lot of the technical concepts that go into IoTeX blockchain. So, you know, the way this live AMA will work is any questions you have, live questions, feel free to drop it in the chat section, and we'll get to them one by one. We'll also have some pre-filled questions that the community submitted, so we'll dive into that. But, you know, before we get into that, just wanted to have a casual chat with Xin Xin and share more around, you know, the research aspect of what IoTeX is doing. You know, we know that mainnet was launched, which is the root chain, but there's so much going on with our project. How would you kind of summarize some of the research parts?
Okay, so basically, for the last year, we mainly focus on the more fundamental research related to the different components of blockchain infrastructure. For example, the consensus part, also some privacy aspect. We did some more fundamental research in this aspect, and integrated those features into our blockchain and check what's potential like performance issues and other things we need to think about, especially when we consider in the IoT domain. And starting from this year, we are more because we already have the foundation of our IoTeX blockchain, and we are more focusing on the application aspect, how we bring the IoT applications onto our blockchain in a secure and more efficient manner. And what's a role blockchain will play in the entire IoT ecosystem. That's we need a more deep thinking in that aspect. Also, I think that's mainly research directions we are heading to solve the real world problem and bring the real world application to the IoTeX blockchain.
That's really interesting. And, you know, one thing that Xin Xin just mentioned, I think, is a question a lot of the community will have is, what is blockchain's role in this kind of IoT space and also the privacy space? You know, we want to give kind of your perspectives on both the theoretical things that we're working on and some of the more practical things as well.
Okay, so from the theoretical point of view, we need to have more deep thinking about the exactly role the blockchain should play in the IoT ecospace, right? IoT system is quite complex. They have multiple components, like device, your gateway, or storage service, or other service you need to take care of. Blockchain, you can think, is another very important component goes into this IoT space. This will change how you design the security architecture and also how to use this powerful tool to build new solutions around the IoT device. I think that's a very important aspect because this will change the entire design of your security architecture and also affect how the device will really talk with each other, and how to enable the interoperability among the millions of those devices. That's all the difficult questions we need to answer for this space.
That's great. So yeah, I think, you know, in IoTex's R&D department, you know, Xin Xin definitely heads up a lot of those initiatives. And I guess to summarize, you know, it's important to think about not just delivering products without really thinking holistically about security architecture, how the blockchain will enable interoperability across these devices, and really thinking from a theoretical and fundamental point of view around how it all fits together. So, we'll dive into some more questions with Xinxin around the research side in a bit. But, just to start, we wanted to summarize a new blog that we wrote called the IoTeX Post-Mainnet Roadmap. So in this blog, we kind of summarized 3 new things that we're launching just in the next couple months. So really exciting things. We've always wanted to deliver things very fast on top of the mainnet. And, our teams, our tech teams, our research teams, marketing, BD teams are all working around the clock on new kind of things. So the first thing we want to introduce to everyone is the first token that will ever be launched on the IoTeX network. It's called Vitality Token, short name for VITA, and it's going to be our community token. So what does this kind of mean? Like, we chose Vitality because the definition is kind of the capacity for survival or continuation of a meaningful existence. I think that is a good analogy for community. And what this token is meant to do is meant to incentivize and put a lot of the community governance onto the blockchain. So incentivizing people to contribute in different ways, such as staking and voting, doing community tasks, doing referrals, and other kinds of contributions, and kind of digitizing those incentives and contributions and giving people VITA tokens for those activities. And then finally, having a lot of ways to spend those VITA tokens, whether they're IoT product giveaways. We have a lot of IoT device manufacturer partners that have donated lots of the latest IoT products. So we're going to be doing reviews on those products, and we're going to be giving those away in lotteries, as well as a lot of other ways for you to use VITA tokens, both within the IoTeX ecosystem and also third-party applications and ecosystems. So, really expanding the footprint of where IoTeX can sit. So, the VITA token is not just a new cryptocurrency launched on IoTeX. It's also what's going to be powering our second big announcement, which is the IoTeX member portal. So, we kind of alluded to this last month, but the member portal is really our way of not really creating only IoTeX specific news, but just around the entire blockchain and IoT and privacy space. We want this to be the one-stop shop for all community, and whether they're old community or brand new community, to come in, understand the blockchain and IoT space, what's happening in it, and definitely what IoTeX is contributing. So it's a mix of curated content, exclusive news, and also these kind of IoT product giveaways and lotteries and all these kind of fun things. We want to make learning about blockchain and IoT and IoTeX more fun and engaging for everyone. So those are 2 big things that are going to be launched just within the next few weeks. We'll have more details on VITA as well as the member portal soon. But the third one is, one thing that we've really been kind of working on top secret in a way. We haven't shared too much about it, but in the blog, this is kind of our first introduction of something that we've been working on for over a year now. It's called AvoBoard, and it's really kind of the gateway to trusted computing and privacy on the IoTeX network. And Xinxin has been in the weeds really designing this board from scratch. So maybe you can share first, what is AvoBoard? What is it meant to do? And then we can dive into some of the use cases maybe for AvoBoard.
Okay. So basically, AvoBoard is a secure edge computing device. You can build application on top of it. So the motivation for us to consider this type of secure computing device is that we realize that security is a really serious issue for the IoT world to keep moving on. From past years, you already see a lot of report about different data breaches or large-scale data breaches in the IoT space. Since most manufacturers, they only consider the cost for the IoT device. There are not enough security features have been integrated into those low-cost devices, which bring a lot of issues for the IoT deployment and applications. And the people are really scared about what information have been lost during those disasters. That's why we thought it's really important to build to enable the security for the IoT ecosystems using the trusted hardware. So that's one of the main motivations we consider to bring a new board, which is developer friendly, to doing the trust computing applications.
Yeah, for people that don't know what trusted hardware is,
Okay.
So a lot of people will look at this board and think it's some kind of Raspberry Pi kind of device, but what are the differences? How do you compare more of like a standard non-trusted hardware device with AvoBoard?
So actually, you already use trusted hardware in your daily life. Starting, like everyone has a credit card, right? That's actually the secure element. In the credit card format, you talk with your bank using this piece of secure hardware.
All mobile phones have
all mobile phone
has
the trusted as well. Also, if you have the laptop, each time you boot up your laptop, they will go through a secure booting status. That's also enabled by the TPM, the Trust Platform Module. It's also a kind of trust hardware. Actually, you already talk with it every day. Just you don't know. The major problems for the trust hardware is it's really hard to use by the developers. So the trust
kind of like a closed environment.
It's like a closed environment, and semiconductor company rarely share the information how they design this trusted hardware and how to use it. Yeah, that's a major barrier for developer to use it. Yeah,
and we kind of take the opposite approach. We wanted to make a trusted hardware device that was open and programmable, right? So this AvoBoard is really, as Xinxin mentioned, it's our in-house hardware, in-house development board that's going to come with a lot of IoTeX specific tooling and enable privacy preserving smart contracts and a lot of other privacy related kind of things. So, you mentioned, some of the traditional institutions kind of looking at privacy or having their own views on privacy. Do you have any thoughts on kind of what's going on in the privacy world right now with Apple and Facebook and Google kind of like issuing new privacy manifestos? How does this differ from their version of privacy?
So actually for the different business, privacy have the different meanings, and it's really care about which data you need to protect, and which condition the data can be accessed by whom, right? Those issues will be quite different from the business to business. So for example, in the IoT world, they have a different type of data. So if you consider the data, for example, your health data, that's extremely sensitive, right? And also the industrial data getting from the manufacture process is also sensitive. For those type of data, you need to consider how to protect them, right? In the concrete IoT systems.
No, that makes sense. So it's kind of like the traditional institutions, the Google, Apple, Facebooks of the world, their version of privacy, they own your data, but their version of privacy is not sharing that data with third-party advertisers or people that kind of create these digital profiles of you. Our version of privacy is almost protecting your data from those larger institutions like Apple, Google, Facebook in some ways.
Yes, exactly. Actually, in the decentralized world, the privacy really means it should be under control of user, right? The user should decide which information they want to get accessible by whom. That's a key question you need to answer.
Right. And for those that are kind of new to this decentralized privacy aspect, it's very different from centralized privacy where, in the centralized world, you're always counting on someone that you trust to hold your data, right? But in the decentralized world, you're kind of trusting cryptography and programming and math. You're trusting the blockchain. It's kind of flipping the model where, instead of Apple and Google and Facebook deciding whether or not they're going to monetize your data, it's kind of you deciding who you want to share that data with and whether you want to monetize it or donate it or keep it completely private. So, it's kind of a new narrative. I think people need to still get used to this and understand that, they can own their data and use it as well. So, we'll dive more into all things AvoBoard definitely in the future. But just to recap, AvoBoard, we're going to have this a pre-order for AvoBoard, whether it's late June or early July. And before then, probably issuing some more technical documentation and possibly a white paper on AvoBoard. But for the preview, really highly suggest that everyone check out the new blog post. Let us know your thoughts, and we'll slowly introduce more and more features about AvoBoard. But it's really meant for blockchain developers and privacy and IoT enthusiasts, right? It's really a gateway to using IoTeX blockchain in brand new ways. So privacy preserving smart contracts, which means you can perform private computations on IoTeX blockchain without ever risk of leaking sensitive data. It kind of doubles as a privacy and IoT gateway. So, hooking up devices via USB to this gateway can kind of help sync all types of IoT devices, allowing for new proof of concepts and really like developing applications around devices and software, as well as new SDKs and developer tools that are going to be built right into the board. So it'll make developing applications easier than ever. So I don't think there's many other projects that have really delivered on this difference, because there's a lot of projects like Zcash, Monero of the world that are doing more transactional privacy. What we're talking about is more computational privacy, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, maybe talk about like the importance of computational privacy and maybe compare what's going on in the cloud world with what's coming in the blockchain world.
Okay, so if you consider other projects, they mainly focusing on how to protect the money transfer, right? On their cryptocurrency systems. That's a very important aspect. You need to solve. So for those particular projects. However, for IoTeX, we more focus on the IoT space. So actually, under this condition, there's a huge amount of data collecting by the IoT device. We need to see how we can process those data in a privacy-preserving way for certain applications. That's a difference I think we need to consider.
Great. We have a new competitor in the arena. Raullen is here. So for those that don't know, I'm sure that's not many of you, but Raullen is co-founder, CEO of IoTeX. Maybe you give a short intro to the new community members.
Hi, this is Raullen from IoTeX. I'm CEO and co-founder. Actually, me, Jun, and Kevin, we founded IoTeX back in 2017. Almost like 20 months passed. How time flies. Yeah. Sorry about being late. I have a previous meeting who's running late.
No worries. Yeah, we're all busy here, and Raullen and team are working around the clock. So where we are right now, I think we gave a short intro of AvoBoard and all the new VITA tokens in the member portal. So now we're going to jump into some questions from the community. So the first one,
right on time.
Yeah, right on time. we wouldn't start without you. So the first one is around consensus. What's special about IoTeX consensus, which makes it different from other projects like that are other Depos projects like Ontology, Plasma, Cosmos, etc. So maybe start with a high-level overview of role Depos and maybe talk about some specifics. Yeah.
So actually on the IoTeX blockchain, we created a consensus so-called role Depos, which is a randomized version of the famous delegate proof of stake schemes. So the basic idea is we have very large candidate pool, which can act as the block producers, and we divide the time into multiple epochs. And each epoch, we select a certain number of block producers from our large pool. In this way, we try to ensure more fairness for the block producers when they create the block, which are different from the existing projects like the US and other Depos-based projects.
And that randomization is important because it adds kind of more decentralization to Depos, which for those that don't know too much about Depos is delegated proof of stake. So, it kind of the trade-off between using that consensus mechanism, a lot of people say you're often trading decentralization for scalability. And that is kind of a conscious decision we made, but we didn't just take that trade-off for what it is. We kind of added this extra layer of randomization to add more decentralization. So I guess when you think about implementing role posts in the mainnet, maybe Raullen can talk about how it's performing. Right now we have 50, 60 delegates from around the world. Check them out at member.iotex.io. But those guys are running role posts with live economics in the live mainnet. Maybe talk about how that's performing.
Right. So back to the basics, right? So when we design this role post, there are two actually very important criteria we keep in mind. So one is like a simple. It's like a design should be simple enough. Like for example, like a Bitcoin, like everybody can understand. Even like a high school student can understand within an hour. So like a simplicity is super important because your blockchain will be deployed to our real world and running for decades, even hundreds of years, right? So if like the scheme is too complicated, for example, like an algorithm and also complex, I like those algorithms, right? They're pretty beautiful, but like the implementation, right? How could you guarantee like the implementation is 100% correct, right? So that's a very hard thing to do. So that's why we keep in mind like simplicity is definitely like the thing we want. And second one is like decentralization plus scalability, right? So that's why we come up with this idea of role posts. It can be like understand probably just I think about high school students as well. In a few words, you have like a pool of delegates, like you have like a decentralized algorithm to choose like a subset out of this pool every epoch, and they will run PBFT to produce blocks. That's it. Simple enough, right? And like Larry said, we have now 60, probably 60, I don't know, 65-ish delegates who's already on board. And it's 36 out of this 65 have been chosen as like the consensus delegates. And like I said, in every epoch, 24 out of 36 delegates are actually chosen to do like around this PBFT to actually produce blocks. Each epoch is roughly 1 hour, and next epoch, another group of people out of the 36 people will do another round.
Right. So very dynamic, but also very practical in the way it's implemented. So
right.
Managing, effectiveness and simplicity, I think, is core principles that Raullen described. So
exactly.
This next question is around privacy preserving solutions for smart contracts. So, there's a lot of projects working on in this space, taking different approaches. We just had a great meetup in New York during Blockchain Week, Consensus Blockchain Week. And, we had NewCipher, Enigma, Zcoin, Spring Labs, all these different companies working on different implementations. So what is our approach, and, how does it kind of differ from other projects?
Yeah, so I think generally speaking, there are two main approach. One is like a theoretic approach, more on the crypto theory side, cryptography theory. I mean, not cryptocurrencies, right? So it's like cryptography theory, which includes, like this multi-party computation, this fully homomorphic encryption, and also their knowledge proof. I think those are very beautiful. But like at the current stage, like those theories are still at a very infant stage. Like they cannot do everything. Even like a ZKP, like a zero knowledge proof, like you probably see this word everywhere, but it can only do like actually very limited amount of things. And also like the complexity to implement those stuff is very high. Like I said, for example, like a Zcash, they have like a very serious vulnerability, I think last year or so, right?
Last couple months ago.
That's a couple months ago, right?
Seems like a year in crypto world,
right. Yeah, in this circle, yes. But like they cannot disclose this one to everybody. Like they just silently fix this bug and release a new version. But like given like the complexity of this ZKP implementation, I'm sure there will be like another probably similar bugs or maybe even more. So that's one approach. Another approach is more like a practical approach. That's what we are taking. It's more like assume you have a hardware, you have like a safe box, you can run everything inside like in a confidential way, right? So that's a thing called TEE, Trusted Execution Environment, which has been on the market for 3 decades, 4 decades, right? It's a very mature technology. Like basically when you have this bank card, it has like a chip. Like the chip has some like a secret element, some TEE inside. So that's why like you can run your transactions in a very secure way. So we're kind of taking this approach by assuming like this hardware is secure enough, so we can do like a more feature-rich stuffs compared to this cryptography approach.
Right.
Yeah.
And that kind of comes to life in AvoBoard, which you just talked about.
Yeah,
So all
that's
these
AvoBoard.
trusted execution environments are built into AvoBoard. And, this is not something that we, the chip itself is not something we built from scratch. It's from a trusted supplier, ARM, which is one of the biggest chip companies in the world. And, I think we'll have more context on privacy and definitely some more explaining the technical details about AvoBoard and trusted execution environments. But as Raullen mentioned, it's mostly focused on combining secure multi-party computation and trusted execution environments. This next one is around like a big theme that comes around in the news a lot lately, and it's 5G. So 5G is meant to enable a lot of edge devices and a lot of edge computing, right? So this question is, what is your view on 5G? What kind of possibilities would 1 millisecond latency and 1 gigabyte bandwidth in one's pocket give to a blockchain like IOTeX? But maybe for people that don't know much about 5G, maybe you could provide like a high-level overview of what exactly it is.
Yeah, I think, in the high-level overview, the 5G is the next generation of telecommunication technologies, which will further reduce the response time and give you like high bandwidth for the communication. You can think 5G. Also, we believe the 5G will definitely unlock the new IoT-related applications. For example, in the autonomous driving domains and maybe remote surgery, this type of applications. So basically, for those IoT applications which require faster response time, 5G will be the necessary component. I think that's 5G definitely injects the new blood for the IoT applications.
Right.
However, they still need some further work to bring this technology to the IoT domain. The new communication modules need to build, and also the power consumption is another consideration. How to integrate the 5G technology in the cost-efficient way into the IoT world. I think that's the most important issues.
Right. 5G is often paired with edge computing nowadays, like two very linked kind of I guess technologies, right? Edge computing is more kind of reducing the distance between the device and the central server, right? Because if you're bound by the speed of light, you can only send data thousands of miles and get data back to the device so fast. So instead of doing it on centralized servers, you're kind of doing more computation both at the infrastructure edge and the device edge. So how does that play into the blockchain world? I think people will start to understand that AvoBoard is very much an edge computing device. So how does edge computing and 5G kind of fit the narrative of what IoTeX is really working on?
Yeah, I think like a 5G basically brings in two things very important, right? So first is like a low latency. That means like you have a faster like kind of interaction with devices, like blockchain devices. They will have like a faster conversation, right? Second one is it's cheaper. It's much cheaper. That's what I heard compared to 4G or 3G. So that means two things. First, like you will like have the chance to interact with your IoT device AvoBoard on the edge, for example, like more frequently at a higher speed. That means like you can deliver even more like computation tasks, like a confidential kind of transaction, right? For example, to those devices and ask these devices to probably compute something for you, like probably in a real-time manner. I don't know, like if you can do like a live streaming, probably sending some encrypted thing to the device on the edge, and they will decrypt and maybe send you back something like meaningful. That could be like one potential use case. Another one is like a much cheaper. Much cheaper means like a massive adoption, right, of this like technology. For example, like today, like we have lots of things, but those things are not connected. Why? One reason is probably because this connectivity is pretty expensive. I'm not sure about like in other countries, but in US you have to pay at least like $20-$30 per month to get like this connectivity for your phone, talking with the internet. But with 5G, probably I can imagine like if everything is like if connectivity is free, for example, then it's like we can see like everything will be connected.
Right.
Then like a blockchain will have like a more how should I say, like have a broader scope of things to like coordinate them.
Right.
Right.
No, that's
Right.
definitely true. So 5G is definitely an enabler, right? I think running in parallel with a lot of the development of what we're doing, we're closely watching a lot of connectivity technologies, not just 5G, but LoRa and also other types of things to see how they really expand the possibilities of devices, and that kind of trickles into the blockchain world as well.
Yeah.
This next one is around kind of the marketing plan and launch plan for AvoBoard. So the question is, are there any large ongoing or upcoming marketing campaigns to spread the word about AvoBoard to blockchain developers and IoT and privacy enthusiasts? So maybe share like what your approach or your vision for putting AvoBoard in every country around the world in the future.
Yeah, so our strategy is like kind of very different from probably, I don't know, some other people who's selling their devices. So what we want is first like distribute this AvoBoard to a small group of people who could be like maybe early, I don't know, IoTeX adopters, some security researchers, some universities, some developers, or even our delegates as well, right? So they are, like they are very loyal users of IoTeX network, so they should have like the first test of how this thing works out. And also we want to collect some feedback from them in terms of how secure this is, how efficient the design is, right? So what type of apps can be built on top of this AvoBoard, this layer 2 trusted computing, and lots of conversations probably will be going on. So that's why we want like distribute this to a small group of people and let them try out. So we will keep like iteratively improve this thing before we push it to the massive users. Yeah. So that's kind of our strategy. When we do that, we want to make sure like the device we push it out to the massive users are actually successful and very useful. We don't want to like say like lots of people something which is basically useless, right? We want to make sure it's secure and useful.
Right. So as far as the overall plan is, as Raullen mentioned, we're going to do more of a beta testing phase after taking pre-orders, which will happen maybe early June or early July, something like that. And then, really focusing on building the tooling that will make AvoBoard usable. We don't want to just give the hardware without any, tooling or, already built, D apps that are kind of modular. You could piece it together yourself. So really trying to cater to all skill levels, right? Even the very, very advanced researchers that can keep on pushing the capabilities of what AvoBoard can do, as well as beginner developers that are trying privacy for the first time. So definitely stay tuned for more on AvoBoard. Next question is also AvoBoard related. So is it possible to connect different types of smart home devices like Philips Hue lights to AvoBoard? And that's the first question. And would I be able to build a subchain inside my smart home? So maybe Xinxin, you could talk about like, how does IoT and AvoBoard kind of work together?
So actually it's depending on the concrete IoT devices. Because they have so many type of IoT devices with running the different wireless communication protocols. And to enable the connectivity between those devices on the to the AvoBoard, probably we need extra wireless communication modules to be built and connect to the AvoBoard in order to talk with that specialized devices. The good thing is when we design the AvoBoard, we design the very generic way, which means we expose as many interface on the board as possible for the future expansion. Depending on the application, we will also think about maybe build some sub modules which can easily connect to the AvoBoard and talk to your IoT device.
And the second part of the question around like building out a subchain. So maybe Raullen, you can share more around how in the future, our vision was always to allow people to create a subchain, kind of like how cloud instances are started today. So how does that work, Raullen?
Yeah, so so I think the idea of subchain is basically you have one chain for like one very specific use cases, right? For example, so actually, back off a little bit, right? So for example, like a smart contract can actually be like a subchain feature rather than like like the root chain feature. If you think like the root chain is mainly for security, while like subchain for computing, then computing should be moved to layer 2. But however, like at Ethereum and also like current IOTeX root chain, we combine this in together, right? That's kind of like, I think it's good for the short term, but in the long term, maybe this execution of smart contract can be separated out to a layer 2 subchain. And also you can do other like very meaningful things on layer 2 chain. For example, like a storage is another example, like Filecoin kind of, IPFS kind of thing should actually build in layer 2, while like the security of this chain will be maintained in layer 1. I'm sure like you will have lots of ideas around probably IoT hub at layer 2, and also like the AvoBoard trusted computing at layer 2. Yeah, so that's why I want to emphasize like layer 2 is basically like the enabler, which is like tightly associated with different scenarios, different use cases.
Right.
Yeah.
So layer 2 is definitely more function oriented, right? And whether that function is providing network-wide capabilities like IoT hub or trusted computing via AvoChain, which are separate layer 2 blockchains. You can also, if your function is to power your smart home, you can also create your own subchain in the future. So looking forward to that. This next one, while we're on the topic of AvoBoard, let's finish this last question off. Is every AvoBoard a node in the network? And whether it's a full node or like an SPV node, maybe describe how that actually works.
Okay, so yeah, actually we also leave the like a PCIe interface on the board, which enable you to put a wireless card. Also, we have the MSATA interface, which you can put a small SSD drive. Or basically you have a very small computer you can use. However, essentially it's still an IoT device, right? They are very relatively low cost and have very limited capability in terms of computation and storage. Most likely, this type of device will act as a lightweight client with IoTeX blockchain, and might store the partial data on the of the blockchain on the board. However, depending on the concrete applications, we need to design the protocols to how to use the storage on the board and how to talk with the other device. Yeah.
Right. So this is something to clarify, right? The difference between, so AvoBoard will be a node, but there's a difference between a full node and a light node or an SPV node. So the full nodes are the ones that hold the entire history of the blockchain, while the light nodes interact with full nodes to kind of get the updates, and they don't necessarily need to store the entire blockchain. So, it goes deeper into the design of, how these kind of light nodes and full nodes interact, but AvoBoard will be a light node. This question, now jumping over to VITA, is will the VITA token be available to trade? And also, is VITA an airdrop from IOTeX? If yes, what's the airdrop ratio? So, we kind of introduced VITA when you weren't here, Raullen. So maybe from your perspective, share more about what VITA is. It's, a lot of people may confuse it for the existing points system that we already have, but VITA is much more than that. It's more of a cryptocurrency, and we have bigger goals for VITA than just living on the member portal. So maybe from your own words.
Yeah, so VITA is like one token we will be using like for most of the community tasks, basically trying to grow the community, right? So like the initial purpose of VITA is not to make it tradable, but to like design, different campaigns, different games, different type of events around VITA. For example, like Larry must be talking about like this IoT device giveaway, right? So that's kind of like one event, and we will have probably a lucky draw and some other events, and also including lots of community tasks. So because like VITA is not like a rocket science, it's just like a ERC20 token kind of token running on top of IOTeX blockchain. So any exchange can go there and list the VITA token and make it tradable. That's not under our control, but it's their choice, right? But still, like we want, in terms of an airdrop, I think like we do have the plan to actually do some airdrops to like initial voters and stakers, who has been like voting and staking using IOTeX, right? But I'm not sure like how concretely we have this thing done, but probably we will share you guys with more details in the next few days.
Yeah, so early next week, we're going to be launching a blog on VITA, all things that you need to know about the VITA token. And, it explains how VITA is minted. There's a certain allocation of VITA that's produced every day. And, even though VITA is a cryptocurrency, there's a lot of underlying incentives that we're building into this token. So a lot of, detailed design around the crypto economics of it, as well as just generally the incentives of how VITA flows in and out of the ecosystem. So we'll have definitely more on that. The second part of the question, is VITA an airdrop from IoTeX? When we kind of had the early staking and voting bonus, so we always mentioned that there will be a lot of benefits for early stakers and voters, which we call Genesis voters. So Genesis voters will be getting an airdrop of VITA proportional to the amount that they staked before mainnet launch. And we'll have more details around that. So thanks again to all of the guys and girls that staked early, and prizes will be coming soon. What will be the ratio to swap VITA tokens into IoTeX? And will it be a one-to-one basis? So first, VITA won't be swappable to IoTeX, but can go the other way around. You want to share more, Raullen?
Yeah, so like the ratio wouldn't be 1:1. It could be some like a fixed number, could be some dynamic number. It's really depends on like our underlying designs. Like Larry said, we will share with you guys more on the next few days.
Yeah, stay tuned. We'll have some detailed explanations around how IoTeX can be used to purchase VITA and why you would want to do that also. This next question is around embedded hardware solutions. So any embedded hardware solutions in the pipeline? Maybe start with, for people that aren't familiar with embedded hardware solutions, like kind of myself, what's this question talking about?
Yeah, this basically you can think is some type of IoT applications. You already have the hardware. Basically, you need to write a firmware to enable this hardware to collect the data, to process data. That's from a type of embedded solutions for the certain applications. Actually, I think we have a very ambitious roadmap internally how we should bring the security to the IoT world using all those powerful tools. Blockchain is one very important components. Also, how we secure the IoT device. The AvoBoard actually just the first step we are looking at in the gateway side. We also have some other activity related to the device side. Stay tuned, and you will know more later. Yeah.
I think like in the pipeline we do have a trusted tracking device, right?
Yes, right. Exactly.
So we do have a very interesting project actually. That's like a part of a bigger solution we designed for a big enterprise. So they want tracking things in a very secure and also trusted way. So that's why we have been design and also actually implemented quite a few this kind of tracker that has a security element on top of it, so it can attest it what is going on with an environment, for example, a GPS location, temperature, even some maybe speed, I don't know, velocity, something like that. But those data can be captured in a very trusted way, then they will go back to the blockchain. So like I said, that's a part of the bigger solution designed for enterprise use case.
Right. So I think in this hardware realm, we're still very much focused on bringing trust to the devices, and once you have trust in those devices, then you can trust the data that's coming from them before we start thinking very forward around, all the different ways that data can be chopped and used in different types of applications. So more to come on that. This next question is around, it's important to know a lot of coins. What does the IoTeX team think about this, and what do you plan to do in the future? I think this question is asking around how we are tracking the broader market. Any perspectives on things that are launching? There's so many mainnets these days, and it seems like a lot of people are switching over to proof of stake and depots. But what other perspectives do you guys have on the market?
So I think two things, right? So one is our technical roadmap. So basically we want to make our technical stuff very solid, and also it's ready to use. It's not just about telling stories, for example, IOTA, right? They are really good at telling stories, but we want to show the world something real, something related to IoT and blockchain that can actually join together and create some value. So that's why I think that's the most important part, actually. So two, like on the product side, we will be like more concrete on the product side. So one is like we are dividing and also implementing our new product in-house, right? Trying to grow the community like a VITA token, and also at the same time we are very aggressively to integrate with like also collaborate with other products on the market. For example, Trust Wallet, I'm Token, Kobo Wallet, which just like a support IOTEX staking automatically. If you happen to know that, like those products, those are kind of like a relatively mature product, they have a large user base and also Blockfolio as well. So they have a very large user base. So if we collaborate with them, we have like a deep integration with them. Actually, IoTeX will be brought to the face of this 200 million users globally. I think that's a very effective strategy we have. On the other side, there is another one. Actually, we're also talking with like called Beta Universe. They have like a large pool of traders or whatever. So IoTeX will hopefully be launching something with them pretty soon. That's another kind of example of showing this initiative. Yeah.
Any thoughts on kind of the overall market, Xinxin?
Yeah, it's very hard to predict. So many products have been launched at the same time.
Yeah.
I think people just different products, they just basically exploring the different capabilities and try to push to the stream what's really blockchain can do. And I think eventually people will have better understanding or deep understanding what's a real role the blockchain should play.
Yeah, just to share some perspectives that, Raullen and I and Lori were in New York for Blockchain Week. And, it was a really great event. I think comparing this year to last year, it seems a lot of the like end-to-end marketing and advisory firms were no longer there, which is great. And it was a lot of builders and investors just really having good conversations around practical use cases of blockchain. Even walking into the Hilton Midtown where the consensus event was held, the conference was held, you see a lot of posters there, like eBay logos, Deloitte, Tata, a lot of people putting their stamp on blockchain and kind of announcing that they are entering the space. But as Xinxin just mentioned, people are still figuring out where and how they want to enter. And I think with regulation coming hopefully soon from the SEC, really allow people to safely enter the space. And I think just even having Microsoft and other big companies put their names not just on blockchain but on public blockchains, like Microsoft is building that ID system on Bitcoin. I think that's a real show of confidence for public blockchains, which is great. So yeah, I think this next question, we have two more questions, and I think we'll then wrap it up. The first one is around the Delegates program. So there's more than 50 plus delegates around. Who are your favorite delegates and how is the program going? And what can we look forward to going forward?
We actually just have like the delegate core, like a monthly delegate core this morning. A few hours ago, right, 3-4 hours ago, like we share a lot. Probably we should like share some contents with the community as well. We talk about like we will have like a software upgrade, right? We will have more analytics around IoTeX blockchain. But most importantly, like we talk about the contributions from the delegates, right? It's kind of like very exciting to me, at least, to see like so many contributions from different delegates around the world, right? For example, some of the delegates, they sponsor us with meetups, with events. Some of the delegates, they actually integrate us into their product. Kobo is a very good example. And also some community delegates, they develop lots of meaningful things for us, like the wallet, like the Explorer, and also some gateways to show like the return ROI kind of thing. And also like marketing campaigns together with CoinGecko, Delegate is another example. I'm so excited to see like they're like so engaged with IoTeX family. It's not just like about making money. It's more like about like helping this project to like taking off from ground. I think that's like a most like exciting part to me.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Some future plans for the delegate program are, we're all definitely onboarding new delegates almost every week now.
Two new ones are just joining on board, Blackpool and Cytex, and also, new ones coming in, just a very steady stream of incoming. So, our goal as IoTeX is kind of like the unbiased overseer of this Delegates program, is just to provide transparency on what delegates are contributing, and definitely like how they stick to their word about paying out rewards. So on those two topics, the contribution section, we're really taking a new initiative to make those more public, and also to curate ones that we find especially valuable for the network. So on the member.iotex.io website, within the next coming weeks, we'll be adding a new top section with like mini banners of what delegates are contributing, as well as a new section in each voting profile where delegates, from their own words, can explain what they are building. And on the second piece around, there's some things that people care a lot about, obviously, are the rewards part. So we want to take the pain out of it, not do anything hypothetical or theoretical, but really explaining what rewards have been paid and when. So, all of this is done on the blockchain, which is great, which makes it very easy. So we've created an account, we vote for all the delegates, and we just see what kind of rewards come into that account, and we'll make that data public. So a lot of things, adding transparency to the program, and just incentivizing more community and delegate participation, I think, is the overall goal. And the last question we have today is around usability of the blockchain and what devs can look forward to. So, I know we just launched a new SDK and the OneFX platform, but from your guys' own words, how can developers get involved, and what is coming in the pipeline?
Yeah, I think most importantly, like we have the core part already done, but like we are building like a surrounding products. For example, SDK you just mentioned, like also like a OneFX, which is like a pretty awesome, like a, how to say, like a framework for D apps. People can just like adopt and use. And also like a wallets, desktop wallets, mobile wallets. There are lots of things actually around, like IoTeX core. So that's where we need help actually from you guys as well. If you have some cool ideas, or if you know how to do something like a very efficient way, don't hesitate to just come to us, say like, I want to build this for IoTeX. So which is definitely like welcome. And also we can talk about like how can we support you to build this thing. So on our internally, in the short term, there are two things we will build. One is like a IoTeX analytics. That means we will have like a more deep insights about what is going on in the IoTeX blockchain. So like one very good example this morning, like we actually mentioned to Delegates, is so we will have like a GraphSQL API kind of thing to show them how it's like, for example, from epoch 1 to epoch 10, like this. So here are the voters who has been voted for you and how much they voted for you. So that's why like you should distribute this much of I don't know, reward back to them. So that's a very good example like we will be doing. And another example is like this SDK. We have like a bare minimum implementation of this SDK, which is already working, but we do need like lots of efforts to like make it like a shiny products. Another thing is like integration with different products. We feel like most of the products on the market, for example, exchanges, wallets, whatever, they use just RPC plus Web3. So that's all like Ethereum standard. But like we use more advanced technology like gRPC, and also like the gRPC and like our own like a layer of API. So there must be some some glue layer in between to make it happen that this existing product can talk with IoTeX blockchain. So that's glue layer is also like where we need some help, and maybe we will spend some time on this as well. Yeah.
So we'll definitely package up those thoughts and make it more clear how developers and even users and testers can participate. I think, as we mentioned at the beginning of this session, there's so many new tokens and dApps and things that are coming out. So I think it's a compounding effect where people can use principles and components from dApps and build their own kind of versions of them. So it's definitely a team effort to evolve and try to keep it open source and just benefit each other. We have one question around manufacturer partnerships to add AvoBoard in their chips. Just to be clear, AvoBoard is not a chip, but rather it is a board. Let me show you. It's in the new blog post that we just wrote. So that's AvoBoard. Is very cool and nicely designed by these two gentlemen here. And you can read our new blog that is the post mainnet roadmap, which explains AvoBoard at a high level, and more details are coming soon. So we are just getting wrapped up here. I think I want to thank Raullen and Xin Xin for taking time out of their day, and hope you guys enjoyed the questions. We'll do these more often as we launch VITA and the member portal and AvoBoard, because I'm sure there's a lot of questions around and suggestions we can take from the community. So any final thoughts before we sign off?
No, very
No,
good.
yeah.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
thank you guys so much, and we will see you next time. Have a good weekend, everyone.
See you.